The Galactic Council's folly. Captain Lara Novak stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, her eyes fixed on the viewscreen displaying the swirling blue tunnel of hyperspace. Around her, the ship's crew worked with quiet efficiency, their focus unbreakable even in this moment of historic significance. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates," said her XO, Commander Zain Reza. "The Galactic Council station is in visual range." Lara nodded, her jaw set in a firm line. "Bring us out of hyperspace, Commander. Let's not keep our hosts waiting." The Defiance shuddered almost imperceptibly as it dropped back into real space. The viewscreen filled with the image of a massive space station, its gleaming spires and elegant curves a testament to the technological prowess of the myriad species that made up the Galactic Council. "To think," murmured Lara, "that just a few months ago, we had no idea any of this existed." The message from the Council had arrived suddenly, transmitted by an automated beacon that appeared without warning in Earth's orbit. An invitation, it said, to join the community of spacefaring civilizations. A chance for humanity to take its place among the stars. In the whirlwind of activity that followed, Lara found herself at the forefront of Earth's delegation. As one of the United Earth Space Command's most decorated officers, her presence was meant to convey humanity's strength and confidence. But as the Defiance glided into the station's cavernous docking bay, Lara couldn't shake a sense of unease. The Council's invitation had come with a near-complete lack of information about the other species they were about to encounter. It was a diplomatic overture, yes, but one that left Earth flying blind. The ship settled onto its assigned landing pad with a gentle thud. Lara took a deep breath, straightened her uniform, and turned to her crew. "Let's go make history," she said, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. The Council chamber was a grand, sweeping space, filled with representatives from hundreds of alien species. Lara and her team took their place at the designated human platform, trying not to stare at the bizarre array of beings around them. "Welcome, humans, to the Galactic Council," boomed a voice from the central podium. The speaker was a tall, crystalline being, its multifaceted eyes glittering in the chamber's light. "I am High Counselor Zyr of the Anaxi. We have gathered here to formally extend the hand of friendship to your species." Lara stepped forward, inclining her head respectfully. "On behalf of the United Earth Government, I thank you for this invitation, High Counselor. We come in the spirit of peace and cooperation, eager to learn from and contribute to this great galactic community." A ripple of polite applause echoed through the chamber. But as it faded, Lara heard a different sound, a sort of chittering laughter, emanating from a cluster of insectoid aliens to her left. "Is something amusing, Counselor?" she asked, turning to face the group. The insectoid in the center, draped in elaborate robes, waved a dismissive appendage. "Forgive me, Captain," it said, its voice a razor-edged hiss. "But we find it rather quaint, the idea of humans contributing to our community. Your species is so very young, so very primitive." Lara felt a flush of anger rising in her cheeks, but she kept her voice level. "I assure you, Counselor, that humanity has much to offer. Our history may be shorter than some, but it is a history of innovation, of resilience, of constant striving for greatness." "Oh, I'm sure," the insectoid replied, a mocking lilt to its words. "The Council will be sure to call upon you, should we ever have need of your greatness." The chamber erupted into laughter again, a cacophony of alien amusement at humanity's expense. Lara's hands clenched into fists at her sides, but she refused to be baited. Instead, she turned back to the High Counselor, her eyes hard as steel. "Let me be clear, Counselor Zyr. Humanity comes to you as an equal, not a supplicant. We are grateful for your welcome, but we will not tolerate disrespect." She paused, letting her words hang in the sudden silence of the chamber. "You may think us young, even primitive. But let me warn you, do not mistake our patience for weakness. Do not confuse our desire for peace with an inability to defend ourselves. Lara let her gaze sweep the room, locking eyes with each counselor in turn. Humanity has learned hard lessons from our past. We have known war, and devastation, and the price of underestimating a seemingly weaker foe. We offer you our friendship and our strength, but never forget the strength we keep in reserve. With that, she stepped back, letting the murmurs of the council wash over her. They could laugh, they could dismiss, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Humanity would not be ignored. And the galaxy would soon learn the price of underestimating the power of human wrath. Shadows of the Vorian Empire. In the weeks following humanity's introduction to the Galactic Council, Captain Lara Novak found herself increasingly frustrated by the dismissive attitudes of many of the alien representatives. Despite her best efforts to assert humanity's strength and potential, it seemed that the Council was content to treat Earth as a minor, backward player in galactic affairs. But Lara had more pressing concerns than wounded pride. Reports had begun to filter in from the far reaches of human-controlled space, reports of attacks on isolated colonies, of ships vanishing without a trace. The incidents were sporadic, seemingly random, but Lara couldn't shake the feeling that there was a pattern hidden beneath the surface. "What do we know?" she asked, pacing the length of the Defiance's briefing room. Commander Zain Reza stood at the holographic display, manipulating the glowing star maps with deft movements of his hands. "Not much," he admitted, his brow furrowed. "The attack seemed to be focused on our outlying settlements, the ones with minimal defenses. But whoever is behind them is good, they strike fast and hard, and they don't leave any survivors." Lara paused, her eyes narrowing. "No survivors? Not even any distress calls?" Zain shook his head. "Nothing. It's like these colonies are just vanishing." A cold knot of unease settled in Lara's stomach. "This isn't the work of random pirates," she said softly. "This is something more organized, more deliberate." She turned to face her XO, her expression grim. "We need to investigate." Quietly. "I have a feeling that the Council won't be much help, we're going to have to handle this on our own." And so began a shadow war, fought in the depths of space and the halls of power. Lara and Zain chased down every lead, every scrap of evidence, piecing together a picture of a threat that extended far beyond a few isolated raids. The attackers, they discovered, were no mere pirates, but ships bearing the markings of the Vorian Empire, a ruthless, expansionist power that had long viewed humanity as a potential threat. The Vorians were one of the Council's oldest and most influential members, and it quickly became clear that they were using that position to hide their aggression against Earth's colonies. Lara brought her evidence before the Council, demanding action, demanding justice for the lives lost. But she was met with a wall of indifference and excuses. The Vorians denied any involvement, claiming that the attacks must be the work of rogue elements, outside their control. And the Council, unwilling to challenge one of their own, accepted those denials without question. In the face of such blatant obstruction, Lara could feel the fires of rage kindling in her heart. The Council's inaction was not just a betrayal of humanity, but of the very principles they claimed to uphold. If they would not defend the innocent, if they would not stand against the brutal aggression of the Vorians, then what good were they? But even as her anger grew, Lara knew she could not let it consume her. The Vorians were a powerful enemy, entrenched and protected by their position on the Council. If humanity was to have any hope of stopping them, they would need to be smart, to be patient, to gather their strength in secret. And so, even as she continued her futile appeals to the Council, Lara began to plan. She reached out to her contacts in the United Earth Space Command, urging them to bolster the defenses of the remaining colonies, to prepare for the war that she knew was coming. In the shadows, humanity readied itself. In the shadows, they watched and waited, gathering the evidence that would one day bring the Vorians to account. And in the heart of Captain Lara Novak, a cold, implacable fury grew, a determination to make the enemies of Earth pay for every drop of human blood spilled. The Council had ignored humanity's warnings. They had dismissed the strength and resolve of the human spirit. And in doing so, they had sealed their own fate. For when the reckoning came, when humanity unleashed the full might of its wrath, the galaxy would tremble before its power. Tragedy at New Horizons. The colony of New Horizons was a jewel of human achievement, a thriving metropolis carved into the rugged surface of a once lifeless world. Its towering spires and verdant hydroponics bays stood as a testament to the ingenuity and determination of the human spirit, a shining beacon of hope in the cold depths of space. But on a day that would forever be etched in the annals of human history, that hope was shattered. The attack came without warning, without mercy. One moment, the skies above New Horizons were clear and peaceful, the next, they were filled with the sickening glow of Vorian weapons fire. The colony's defenses, formidable though they were, crumpled like paper before the onslaught, their crews barely having time to issue a panic distress call before being reduced to molten slag. On the surface, chaos reigned. Vorian troops, their armor gleaming in the flames of the burning city, marched through the streets, slaughtering all in their path. Men, women, children, it made no difference. The Vorians had come not to conquer, but to exterminate, to send a message written in human blood. In the heart of the carnage, a single figure stood tall, a rifle clutched in white-knuckled hands. Dr. Lena Sorensen, the colony's chief medical officer, had sworn an oath to preserve life, but in the face of such overwhelming evil, she found herself taking life instead, fighting with a savage fury to protect the injured and the helpless. But it was a losing battle. For every Vorian she cut down, a dozen more seemed to take their place, an endless tide of death and destruction. And as the last defenses fell, as the last survivors were hunted down and butchered, Dr. Sorensen could only watch in helpless rage, tears streaking through the blood and grime on her face. Light years away, on the bridge of the UES Defiance, Captain Lara Novak received the news with a sorrow that swiftly turned to incandescent rage. The distress calls from New Horizons played over and over on the view screens, the agonized faces of the dying colonists searing themselves into her mind. 3,000 souls. 3,000 men, women, and children, slaughtered without mercy, without reason. The fury that Lara had held in check for so long, the cold anger that had sustained her through the Council's indifference and the Vorians' atrocities, now exploded into a white-hot inferno of rage. But even in her grief, even in her anger, Lara knew that fury alone would not be enough. To bring the Vorians to justice, to avenge the fallen of New Horizons, humanity would need more than rage, they would need strength, cunning, and the resolve to do what must be done. And so, even as the ashes of New Horizons smoldered, even as the Council offered empty platitudes and condolences, Lara set in motion the plan that would change the face of the galaxy. In secret shipyards and hidden research facilities, the brightest minds of humanity labored day and night, working to perfect the weapons that would bring the Vorians to their knees. Advanced stealth ships, their hulls cloaked in shadows, devastating new forms of weaponry, designed to ravage the reinforced armor of Vorian warships, the Wraith Protocol, a secret so terrible that its very existence was known only to a select few. And at the center of it all, Captain Lara Novak, her heart hardened to diamond by the fires of her grief and her resolve. She would be the tip of the spear, the avatar of humanity's wrath, the one who would make the Vorians pay for every innocent life snuffed out on New Horizons. The tragedy had awakened something in humanity, something dark and implacable and terrifyingly strong. The Council had dismissed them as weak, as primitive, as unworthy of respect. But they would learn. Oh, how they would learn. For the human spirit, once roused to righteous fury, was a force beyond reckoning. And when the day of reckoning came, when the full might of human wrath was unleashed upon the guilty, the galaxy would tremble before its power. The Wraith Protocol. In the depths of space, far from the prying eyes of the Galactic Council, a shadow fleet gathered. Black ships, their hulls drinking in the light of distant stars, their engines thrumming with barely contained power. These were the specters, the hidden arm of humanity's vengeance, and at their head stood Captain Lara Novak, her eyes cold and hard as diamond. "The time has come," she said, her voice echoing through the cavernous hangar of the UES Shadowblade, the flagship of the Spectre fleet. "Too long have we endured the cruelty of the Vorians, the indifference of the Council. Too long have we mourned our dead, while our enemies grow fat on the spoils of their slaughter." A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembled crews, a low growl of barely contained rage. They had all seen the horrors inflicted upon New Horizons, had all sworn blood oaths to avenge the fallen. And now, at last, they would have their chance. "But we will not stoop to their level," Lara continued, her voice rising above the growl. "We will not become the monsters we hunt. Our vengeance will be swift, it will be terrible, but it will be just. We will strike at the heart of Vorian power, at the war machine that enables their atrocities. And we will do it with a weapon they can never hope to match." With a gesture, Lara activated the holographic displays, revealing the schematics of a device that drew gasps of awe and disbelief from the watching crews. It was a thing of nightmares, a construct of twisted metal and pulsing energy, its very shape seeming to defy the laws of physics. "Behold the Wraith Protocol," Lara said, her voice hushed with something almost like reverence. "The product of our greatest minds, the culmination of decades of secret research. A weapon that will allow us to strike without warning, without mercy, and vanish like ghosts into the void." The Wraith Protocol was a marvel of human ingenuity, a fusion of cutting-edge stealth technology and advanced dimensional engineering. It allowed the Spectre ships to slip unseen through the cracks in spacetime, to appear without warning in the heart of enemy territory and unleash devastation on an unimaginable scale. And unleash it they did. Across the length and breadth of Vorian space, the Spectre fleet struck like the hand of an angry god. Military installations, supply depots, shipyards, all crumbled before the might of the Wraith Protocol, the Vorian war machine grinding to a shuddering halt as humanity's vengeance rained down upon them. In the halls of the Galactic Council, panic reigned. The Vorians, once so smug in their superiority, now clamored for aid, for protection against the unseen foe that was dismantling their empire piece by piece. But the Council, paralyzed by fear and indecision, could offer no help. They had dismissed humanity as weak, as primitive, and now, they were reaping the whirlwind of their arrogance. Through it all, Lara Novak stood implacable, her face a mask of righteous fury as she oversaw the destruction of humanity's greatest foe. She took no pleasure in the carnage, felt no joy in the sight of Vorian ships burning against the stars, but she knew, with a certainty that went beyond mere belief, that it was necessary. For too long, the strong had preyed upon the weak, the powerful had ground the innocent beneath their heels. But no more. Now, at last, there would be a reckoning, a balancing of the scales. And humanity, tempered by tragedy and united by grief, would be the instrument of that reckoning. The Wraith Protocol was more than a weapon, it was a symbol, a declaration to the galaxy that humanity would no longer be dismissed, no longer be ignored. They had offered friendship, offered cooperation, and had been repaid with slaughter and disdain. But they would not make that mistake again. For now the galaxy knew the price of underestimating the human spirit, the terrible cost of earning humanity's wrath. And as the last Vorian stronghold crumbled to dust, as the once proud empire lay shattered and broken before the might of the Spectre fleet, the message rang out, loud and clear, to every corner of the cosmos. Humanity was coming. And the guilty would tremble before their fury. A reckoning long overdue. In the aftermath of the Vorian Empire's fall, a stunned silence fell over the Galactic Council. The once bustling halls were now eerily quiet, the representatives of 100 species huddled in small, frightened groups, whispering of the terrible power that had been unleashed upon the galaxy. And in the midst of it all, Captain Lara Novak strode, her head held high, her eyes blazing with a fire that had not dimmed since the day New Horizons burned. She had come not as a supplicant, not as a penitent, but as a conqueror, a champion of her people's righteous fury. The council chamber was in chaos as she entered, a babble of angry and fearful voices rising to a deafening crescendo. But Lara's voice, amplified by the chamber's sound system, cut through the din like a blade of pure plasma. Silence. It was not a shout, not a scream, but a command, spoken with such quiet authority that every being in the room found themselves obeying without thought. In the sudden stillness, Lara's footsteps echoed like thunder as she strode to the center of the chamber, her gaze sweeping over the assembled counselors. "You know who I am," she began, her voice a low, dangerous purr. "You know what I represent. Humanity has come to claim what is ours by right, not conquest, not territory, but respect. The respect that was denied us when we first came to this council, the respect that was trampled upon with every Vorian atrocity ignored, every plea for justice dismissed." She paused, letting her words sink in, watching as the counselors shifted uneasily in their seats. "We warned you," she continued, her voice hardening. "We told you of our strength, of our resolve. But you chose to mock us, to dismiss us as primitives, as weaklings. And now, you have seen the price of your arrogance." With a gesture, Lara activated the chamber's holographic displays, filling the air with images of the shattered remnants of the Vorian war machine. Burned-out hulks of once mighty warships, sprawling military installations reduced to molten slag, the charred and broken bodies of Vorian soldiers, their armor shattered by the might of human weaponry. "Behold the power of human wrath," Lara said, her voice a whisper that carried to every corner of the chamber. "Behold the fury of a species pushed too far, a people united in their grief and their resolve. We offered you friendship, and you repaid us with scorn. We came to you for justice, and you gave us only platitudes and empty words." Her eyes flashed, a sudden blaze of incandescent rage. "No more. Humanity will no longer be ignored, no longer be belittled. We have earned our place in this galaxy, paid for it with the blood of our fallen. And we will have what is ours." In the face of Lara's ire, even the most arrogant of the counselors seemed to shrink back, their earlier bluster evaporating like mist before a raging inferno. For they saw in her eyes the truth of what she said, the terrible, implacable resolve of a species that had been pushed beyond the brink. And in that moment, they knew fear. In the weeks that followed, a new order emerged in the galaxy, one shaped by the undeniable reality of human power. The Council, chastened and humbled, rushed to make amends, to offer humanity the respect and the recognition that had been so long denied. Trade agreements were renegotiated, territorial disputes resolved in humanity's favor. The once dismissive attitudes of the alien races turned to a wary, almost fearful respect, a recognition that the balance of power had shifted irrevocably. And through it all, Captain Lara Novak stood watch, a silent guardian at the gates of human space. She had become a legend, a symbol of her species' indomitable spirit, the avatar of their righteous wrath. For she knew, as all humanity now knew, that respect was not given, but earned. That power, true power, came not from the barrel of a gun or the thrust of an engine, but from the unbreakable bonds of unity, the shared resolve of a people who had looked into the abyss and refused to blink. The Vorians had been only the first, only the most blatant of the threats that lurked in the depths of space. There would be others, Lara knew, other foes who would seek to test humanity's strength, to challenge their newfound place in the galactic order. But they would be ready. For the human spirit, once awakened, could never again be lulled into complacency. They had learned the price of weakness, the cost of capitulation, and they would never again allow themselves to pay that price. Let the galaxy tremble, then, before the might of humanity ascendant. Let them look upon the works of human wrath, and despair. For a new power had arisen, a force that would reshape the very fabric of the cosmos. And woe betide any who stood in its way.